Many experienced hospice nurses say they can often sense when someone is nearing the end of their life. It's not a mystical gift, it's the result of years spent quietly observing patterns that appear again and again. While every person's final days are unique, there are several signs that tend to show up consistently before someone passes. Talking about death isn't easy, but for those of us in our 60s, 70s, and beyond, many have already been through this experience with a loved one, a spouse, a parent, a sibling, or a close friend. Understanding what to expect doesn't just help us prepare emotionally, it also helps us be more present, more compassionate, and more at peace during one of life's most sacred transitions. In this video, we'll explore 5 meaningful signs that many hospice nurses recognize in the final stretch of life. These aren't cold, textbook descriptions or abstract medical theories. These are the real-world observations of those who sit bedside, hold hands in silence, and witness the moments most families miss. If you're currently caring for someone, or even thinking ahead to your own journey one day, these signs may offer you comfort, clarity, and even courage. One of the earliest shifts that hospice nurses often witness is a person gradually turning away from the outside world. It's not dramatic or sudden, it's subtle and slow, a little less talking, more time with their eyes closed. Phone calls go unanswered. Visitors are welcomed with a quiet smile, but not much conversation. It's as though the individual is gently redirecting their attention inward, focusing on something we can't quite see. This isn't necessarily sadness or depression. Often carries a sense of peace and intentionality. Think of it less like a switch being flipped off and more like a dimmer gently fading. The person's energy begins to retreat from the busyness of life. Loved ones can feel confused or hurt, especially when their efforts to engage offering food, conversation, or activities are met with silence or disinterest. But to the trained eye of a hospice nurse, this is a natural shift. It's the body conserving strength, the mind reflecting inward, and the spirit preparing in its own quiet way. One elderly man named Walter, known for his humor and love of company, gradually stopped accepting visitors. He asked to keep the blinds drawn and didn't want the TV or music playing. When his daughter offered to watch their favorite show one last time, he just smiled gently and said, "Not today." It wasn't rejection, it was reflection. It was Walter's way of quietly stepping out of the world without announcing his exit. This kind of emotional and social detachment, while painful for loved ones, is a meaningful part of the dying process. In these moments, just sitting nearby, saying nothing, and simply being present can be more comforting than any words. Another sin hospice nurses frequently notice is a shift in the person's breathing. You may hear long pauses between breaths, shallow breathing, or patterns that seem unfamiliar or irregular. One common pattern is called Cheyne-Stokes breathing, which involves periods of shallow breaths followed by deeper ones and sometimes long silences between. To someone unfamiliar with it, the change in breathing may seem alarming, but to seasoned hospice caregivers, it's understood as a natural transition. The body isn't necessarily in penance, letting go, doing what it knows how to do at the end. The muscles involved in breathing begin to tire, and the brain signals to the lungs, slow down. It's not uncommon for a person to stop breathing briefly, then suddenly take a deep breath, as if remembering to inhale again. One woman, Dorothy, who had sung in church choirs for decades, once said, "Breath is the music of life. You don't notice it until the rhythm changes." In her final days, her breath came in waves, some quick, some slow, some barely there. Her daughter would sit beside her, quietly matching her own breath to her mother's. It created a moment of peace rather than fear. These physical changes aren't cause for panic, they're part of the process. Emotionally, some believe this slowing down helps draw focus inward, shifting energy away from the world and into quiet reflection. If this resonates, it's worth noting that simply being present during these changes, staying calm, and offering silent support can make a world of difference. Another clear indicator that many hospice workers observe is deeper withdrawal, not just from people or conversations, but from life itself. It's a type of emotional distancing where the person seems to gradually detach from things that used to matter to them. They may sleep more, speak less, or keep their eyes closed for longer stretches of time, even when awake. It's not about anger or giving up. It's more like the person is drifting away from the physical world and turning their attention to something else entirely. For example, James, a retired train engineer, spent years telling stories of cross-country trips and colorful passengers. But in his last few days, he became silent, often gazing out the window for hours without a word. His granddaughter brought him a model train, hoping to spark a memory. He smiled faintly, touched it once, then closed his eyes. "That part's over," he whispered without sadness, just calm acceptance. Psychologically, this kind of withdrawal can act as a protective mechanism. It helps conserve energy and signals that the person has accepted what's coming. Families often want to keep loved ones talking, eating, laughing, but nurses gently remind us that allowing space and silence is also an act of love. You don't need to fill the room with sound or try to bring them back into the present. Sometimes your quiet presence is exactly what they need most. One of the most surprising signs is what's known as a sudden burst of energy near the end. It's often mistaken for recovery, but seasoned caregivers recognize it as something else. A person who has been nonverbal or bedridden might suddenly become alert, sit up, or ask for a favorite meal. Some might recall long-forgotten memories, or speak with unusual clarity. It's known as the rally, and it's more common than people think. A man named George, mostly unresponsive for 3 days, suddenly opened his eyes one morning, asked for coffee, and reminded his son to prune the apple trees. He even requested his favorite song. Later that night, he passed peacefully. Well, no one knows exactly why this happens. Some believe it's the result of a last surge of adrenaline or a final clearing of mental and emotional space. Families should be aware that this isn't a sign of recovery, but a special moment, one last gift of connection before goodbye. If it happens, embrace it. Be present. Say what you need to say. Listen closely. These are sacred moments. Lastly, another significant sign that appears toward the very end is a dramatic change in breathing patterns. While we've mentioned this earlier, it's worth emphasizing again. This final shift may include the death rattle, a gurgling sound caused by mucus in the throat that can't be cleared. It sounds harsh, but it's usually not painful for the person. Most are unconscious or deeply relaxed at this point. The nurses often reposition the patient or use medications to reduce the sound, but they rarely try to eliminate it entirely. It's not suffering, it's just part of how the body shuts down. I recall a woman named Carol who had been in a deep sleep for 2 days. Her daughter sat with her continuously. Then, one evening, Carol's breath slowed, paused, and gently stopped altogether. Her daughter said it felt like watching the tide slowly recede from the shore, gentle, peaceful, inevitable. Breathing patterns are often the clearest sign that the journey is nearing its end, and though hard to witness, They can offer one last opportunity to say goodbye with grace and love. Being there, holding a hand, and whispering kind words. These acts matter more than anything medical at that stage. If you've made it this far, thank you. This isn't an easy subject to explore, but it's one we all face sooner or later, either with a loved one or in our own lives. Understanding what to expect doesn't erase the pain, but it can replace fear with understanding, panic with peace, and silence with meaning. Many hospice nurses describe death as being much like birth. It has stages, rhythms, and emotional waves. Just as a baby takes its first breath entering the world, the dying take one last breath on the way out. Neither should be rushed. Both deserve tenderness, patience, and presence. If you've ever accompanied someone through their final days, you know how sacred those moments are. The quiet hours, the warmth of a hand, the hush after that last breath, those are memories that linger forever. So whether you're preparing for what's to come or remembering what's already passed, I hope this message gave you a little more clarity, a little more strength, and a deeper sense of peace. Thank you for listening, and please share in the comments if this spoke to you. Your voice matters, and your presence in this conversation means everything.